In 2 Corinthians 12, verse 10, Paul writes, "That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong." So Paul's story is one that's very interesting. Originally, he persecuted Christians, he persecuted the Catholic Church, he persecuted the disciples, and he was involved in the killing of many. And then God spoke to him in a dream, Jesus spoke to him in a dream. And as a result, he changed. His heart completely changed, his mindset completely shifted, and he became one of the greatest preachers, greatest spreaders of the faith. And really, if not for him, Christianity would have probably never made it to Europe, and he ended up being God's greatest tool to spread the word of Christ across Europe, parts of Asia, and parts of Africa. But it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. And he says here, he delights, he glorifies. I read the King James Bible, and in the King James Bible, this verse is actually completely different. But in the King James, it says he glorifies. He glorifies his suffering. And Paul went through probably the worst of it. He was stoned. He was cast into prison a bunch of times. He trotted on the lines of death. Was very close to dying in many different places, but instead of it breaking him down, it only improved his faith. It only increased his faith. And he only became more bold in his teachings and in what he was doing. So as a result, he became the greatest preacher ever known, really. And in the Bible, because of course I'm going to use the Bible as reference, it stresses suffering. Suffering as being the tool to finding a new level, to finding a new level of strength and power in your lives. Of course, no greater than Jesus Christ suffering and dying on the cross in the worst, most painful, torturous way possible. He died to save us of our sins and our own iniquities. But it's suffering. It's his suffering that allows us to rejoice. In Paul's story, it's his suffering that allows him to be even more bold and have the role that he did have in spreading the word. And another example would be Moses and the people, the Israelites in the wilderness. It was suffering. They went days starving. Lots of them died. But it was to build them up in strength, in character, in courage, so that they can go in and take over the cities where there were warriors and people in there that were double their sizes and super filled with all of this, back in the day, crazy tech and crazy swords and incredibly higher amount of people and soldiers and just larger numbers. But because of the suffering that they actually did to build their characters, they were able to go in, storm the cities, and take back the land. And of course, in the Bible, stories like these are perfect examples as to why the answers are in suffering. So that is the goal of this episode, to kind of talk about that, to show you why that's the case. And in a world where comfort is all over the place, mediocrity is all over the place, and everywhere you look, you see another reason why you can just sit around and do nothing. Another reason why you should just relax and not give it your all in all you do, and just do the easy things. Just take the easy way out. There's so many things in this world that allow you to do that very easily. But stories like these in the Bible absolutely illustrate the fact that some of the greatest people, some of the greatest warriors became that because of their difficulties, because of their suffering. And in this world, to be great, it's not easy, man. It's not easy. You have to put in a lot more work than you're used to and change your identity completely, perhaps cutting out some people that are close to you, who knows, to make it to something incredible, to become greater and better and bigger and succeed in this world. That's really the ultimate goal for all of us, is to do better and is to live a life that was worth it from start to finish. So how do you do that? And where do you get these answers to these life questions of how do you actually live a fulfilling life? How do you actually become great? The answers to those questions are found in difficulty. So, to give you a couple of examples, I'll tell a couple of my own personal stories of difficulties that I've gone through and how they've helped me. Because listen, man, truthfully, there's no, you don't find anything from easy things. Easy things don't give you answers. Easy things don't don't give you the extra meaning. And they're not memorable. That's why people's lives just get wasted all the time, because they go through their days just brain dead, zombies, not really caring about what they're doing, not really putting a lot of thought and effort to what they're doing, because what they're doing is the same every day. So people's lives get wasted because they take the easy way out. And if they did more difficult things, the difficult things come back as greater memories anyway, right? So I'll talk about my things, because in my 2 years in Portugal that I spent trying to become a professional football player, I learned quite a bit. I didn't learn anything from the days where I took a rest day and I didn't really work hard. No, I learned stuff from the hardships, the things that really pushed me to the edge of my capabilities and tested me to my core, tested me to see what I was truly made of. So let me go through a couple of those. So the first story that I'll tell is probably the one that sits with me the most. This was in my first season. And so basically I was 18. I was still pretty young. And being 18 and being in a senior team, I'm training with guys that are literally double my age. There was a dude there that was 40 years old. So people are literally double my age. And technically he's still double my age because I'm 20. But it was a different experience. But in that moment is when I learned how inexperienced I truly was at that time. So being in this new environment, I'm still learning my ways. I'm still trying to get my way around, and I'm still playing games with the underage team, but I'm training with the senior team. And basically, what happened was, it was the last game of the season. The coach had already played me for the senior team. The coach had already played me in a previous game, but the season was over. The club already knew that they weren't going to. They won the league, but the way the Portuguese system works, it gets complicated. I'm not going to burden you with that, but basically there's an extra phase that you have to go through. So we already knew that we weren't going to win that. So it was the final game. And basically what happened was, well, I had a good week of training, and I know I had a good week of training, but no one really said anything to me. So what I did was, the underage team had a friendly on the Saturday, and so I didn't really think anything of it. I was like, I'm not really going to play for the senior team anyway. I haven't played in a while. He gave me the minutes, but I don't think he's going to do anything else. So I played in the friendly. I played the full game in the friendly. We won. It was a very intense game. It didn't really feel like a friendly because it was just that intense. We won 5-4. And the senior team game was the Sunday, so the very next day. And so obviously I showed up because I showed up to watch the game. And as we were in the locker room, it didn't really hit me because I shook hands with all the players, with the coaches first up. It didn't really feel like anything was happening. But then the coach basically called me out in front of the whole team, me and another guy who was also on the underage team that was supposed to play that day. And they said, and the coach basically said something along the lines of, these two guys had the chance to play senior football, but instead they chose to do a training game yesterday. He said something along the lines of that. And of course, in a Portuguese low division team, there was a lot more profanity used in those statements. But basically, he called me and the other guy out in front of the whole team. And now I'm confused because I'm like, well, no one's told me about this. No one gave me any inclination that I was going to play. So I didn't see it as an issue to play in the game the day before. And also, I'm very fit. I would be able to play 2 games in one weekend. That's what I thought initially. So then after the team talk, the coach actually pulled me aside and called me into his personal locker room and basically just tore into me. He tore into me. He called me an idiot. He called me a donkey. He said that I would never make it with this type of mentality. He says that everything that I was thinking about was all wrong. And of course, he did in a very aggressive and very demeaning type of way to me. So it pissed me off. I went home because I went to go get changed because I figured, well, okay, I'm definitely not playing, so I'm gonna go get changed. And I was crying because more so in confusion and anger rather than anything else. It was just the way he approached me that really shocked me. I was like, why are you so mad at me for this? And why are you not playing me? No one told me I was going to play. So I was over here making excuses, making reasons why I'm in the right. And then of course it doesn't help when other people are also trying to defend me. My underage coach said that it was his fault because he shouldn't have played me, and he had a maybe small inkling that I would have been playing in that game for the seniors. But really, at the end of it all, and he called me out again after the game too. He went through all of these because it was the last game, so he went through all of these. He went through all of us and talked about how much he loves us, and he got to me and he said that you messed us up today, and you really shouldn't have done what you did. And he continued to poke at it, and it took me a little while to understand why. Why was it so aggressive? Why was he so mean about it? And then eventually I came to the conclusion that it's not because it was my fault. It wasn't necessarily my fault. There was no way I could have known that I was going to play. But really, the lesson here is to say that, yeah, even if it isn't my fault, it still serves me to take the responsibility for my actions so that I can do better next time. So it wasn't necessarily my fault, but if I look at the situation as my fault, and of course, believe me, the coach made sure that I knew the situation was my fault, then that actually helps me be stronger and better and more thoughtful, more mindful in future situations like this where there's 2 games in one weekend and I don't know what's happening. So, moral of the story, it was weird. It was a weird moment. It was hard because it was, again, it's hard to kind of describe it, but the tone he used at me, the way he just destroyed me and completely picked apart my entire character in the way he punished me as a way of not playing because I played in the game earlier. It was pretty confusing, but it was in this difficult moment because of course I was mad. I cried at the end and I went through weeks thinking why did this happen to me, right? Because I could have had the chance to start a game for the senior team at 18 years old, which is which no one's really ever done. And it's a very, very monumental feat. But it didn't happen because of these reasons. So I was over here thinking, why? And the answer, of course, came to me being, well, I have to take responsibility. Even if it's not my fault, I have to take the responsibility and do better next time. So it was a difficult moment that gave me a bit of clarity, and it helped me out in the next season when I was fighting for my place in the team, and I had options to do certain things and I chose not to focus on the games even if I wasn't sure I was going to play. So it did serve me in the future, and I'm sure it will serve me in the future, even further in the future, because of course I remember the story because it was something that hit very deep. But it's an example of something in my life that was difficult for me to deal with. But at the end of it all, I found the answer to the overarching situation, which exactly further reiterates the point of this entire podcast, which is to say that you find the answers in difficulty. Second story, this one maybe is more direct. You can maybe make the argument saying, oh, there was nothing wrong with that last one. What was difficult about it? Okay, fine. This one was, of course, as a football player trying to make it professional, I joined a team I didn't really know. I joined a team that in training, they looked pretty good. I felt pretty confident. I knew I was a great player. But I didn't know what that season held. This is still in the first season. I did not know what that season held. But it turns out we sucked. We were terrible. We lost 16 games in a row. I made my debut and we won on my debut. We didn't win from November until late April. So 16 games, 0 wins. Not just that, we got destroyed in a lot of games. So it became a time where every single week it was almost inevitable that we'd lose. People lost discipline, people stopped coming to training, and our team was really a mess. We would get destroyed. Score lines that I'm not going to say here because honestly it's ridiculously embarrassing just how many times we were tossed about and completely embarrassed. But what did that teach me? It was a difficult time because if it can make you feel like you're stagnant. I'm over here trying to make it pro, and I'm over here like, well, why didn't I just stay in Canada? We're losing every single game. We're so bad. Why did I join this team? And again, these questions come up in my mind. And then eventually, at the end of it all, the season ends in a great way. We win our last couple of games, and I make it to the senior team, become champion, and then I go on a professional trial where I take these lessons and perform pretty well on that trial. But what did it teach me? It taught me that you have to be resilient. 16 losses, man. Again, it's hard for me to describe, but it's 6 months where you feel like nothing's happening. Not only you feel like nothing's happening, the grueling loss of getting destroyed by another team, and there's really nothing individually I could do. I give my all, I play well, we lose. I have a bad game, I'm sick, I have stomach problems, we still lose. So for me, it felt like there was no way out. It felt like a rut. It felt like I was just falling over and I can't get up, and I'm never going to get up because I'm in this team that's just losing every single week. But it taught me resilience. It really taught me to, first of all, trust God in His plan. After every single grueling loss, eventually I come to the realization, okay, this is another test to make sure that I'm resilient enough to go through anything when it comes to football matches and results and performances. And of course, I would respond to, let's say, a grueling 10-0 defeat by waking up early the next morning and going straight to the gym. That's how I would respond to those. And that taught me the resilience that I needed to do better in the next season, in future professional trials, and in the future going forward. So it was tough, man. It was grueling. It was very painful to actually be in that moment. It's hard to imagine being in that moment, but it was, and it was a long time. But at the end, as I say with everything, it was all worth it. And I found the answer to these questions, and I gained a lot more mentality, a lot more resilience from these moments to grow myself as a player and, of course, as a person, as a human being. So the last thing I'll talk about, the last little story I'll talk about, it's not really a story. This is just a problem I've been dealing with for quite a while. For me, it's waking up early in the morning. I mentioned in the last episode how for me working out and being in the gym and getting my reps in isn't actually that hard for me because I'm so used to it. What is hard for me is actually getting up in the morning. Because especially in recent weeks, and again, part of the reason why I'm doing this podcast, I've been sleeping in, stagnant, and I always feel like crap throughout the day because I slept in and wasted a lot of time. Especially on the days where I actually put an alarm and then I turn it off and then I roll back over and go to sleep. I am guilty of that. And that's a problem for me. That's a big problem because on this journey of life, to trying to be a better person, you have to be disciplined. You have to do the things that you don't want to do. And oftentimes, the thing I don't want to do is actually roll out of bed and get up. But because, okay, I'm not working a job yet, I'm not in school yet, but so I don't have anything really to do, like concretely that says, oh, you have to be there at this specific time. So it makes it so much easier to just roll back over, be like, oh, I don't have anything to do. I'll do the workout at 10. I'll do the workout in the afternoon. But last couple of days for me have been pretty good. I managed to get up early, do the workout, and this was something that I did implement in Portugal, and I had an amazing level of consistency with it. But then I just kind of fell back a little bit, lost a lot of that consistency, and now I'm here trying to find it again. Because what does that teach me? The difficult thing of getting up early and quickly in the morning, starting the day with a workout, and then spending the rest of the morning doing productive things, recording this episode, episodes of the podcast, doing stuff for my business, etc. What does that teach me? It teaches me discipline, consistency, and it gives me a little bit more clarity. And I know that every time I get up early and I work out and I start the day with a workout and I start the day with productivity, I know that I actually make the most of my days. My days are more valuable when I do that. And when I don't, and when I sleep in, I feel like garbage. I feel absolutely horrible. Not just at myself for my laziness and my weakness, but at the fact that the day just genuinely wasn't as productive, as consistent, as efficient as it could have been. So that's what that teaches me. So let's try and put a bow on this, on these three stories / topics, whatever you wanna call it. First story about my coach, senior team situation. It taught me to take responsibility, even if it's not necessarily my fault. Second story, talking about the 16 losses in a row. It taught me resilience and grit when times feel bleak and I feel desperate. When I feel desperate, it allows me to tap into that extra zone to keep me going, keep me focused, and keep me moving forward. And the waking up early in the morning, or lack thereof, situation, let's call it, it teaches me to be consistent with something and to actually live a productive day. So these three things I've learned solely from difficult moments, difficult times in my life. The times where there was comfort, the times that I slept in, the times that I just didn't do anything, I was lazy, didn't teach me anything, if anything, made me feel worse. And that's my experience that I'm sharing to you. Of course, I gave some biblical references as well as to why that's the case. So do a couple of difficult things every day. You don't have to be David Goggins. You don't have to run hundreds of miles every single day, destroying your body, running a couple weeks after a surgery. No, you don't have to do that. You just have to look at your life, look at the situation you're in, and take a couple of things. Write down a couple of things that you really hate doing, that you don't want to do, but you know will benefit you in the long run, and go out there and do them and focus on doing them every day, not just one day, and not just have the motivation to do it one day. You have to do it every single day. Some days will be harder than others. Some days you'll feel a little bit better about yourself and you'll get it done. Other days, you'll just absolutely despise the idea of even starting to do whatever that difficult thing is. Getting the workout in, waking up in the morning, recording content, doing your schoolwork, whatever the thing may be, do it. And maybe even if it's not even that beneficial for you, do it just because it's the idea of doing something you don't want to do. That builds your mind, that builds it and moves it forward. That you can build strength rather than weakness. This is something I say, but I think a lot of other people use this as a quote as well. It's never been so easy to be successful, but it's also never been so easy to sit on your ass and do nothing all day. That's how it is. The internet, accessibility, it's so easy to be successful in anything you do because a lot of people in this world are just mediocre. A lot of people in this world are weak. A lot of people in this world will be more than fine sleeping until 10 a.m., not have any issues with it, for example. A lot of people in this world are fat. I'm just going to say it how it is. And they don't want to work out because it's too hard. I'm not saying that's you, but it might be. And if it is, you know exactly what you got to go and do. So there's no value in the easy thing. There's so much comfort in this world, from video games to Netflix series to drugs and smoking and porn. There's so much comfort, so many things that make you feel good, and it's never been more accessible. So you can, at any point, pick something and spend your entire day and waste your entire day doing that and just doing nothing all day. And just sitting on your ass, doing nothing. It's never been that easy. But because so many people do that, it opens the door. It opens the door for those few that want a little bit more from themselves, that want to push themselves past the limits. Hopefully, that is you. So the answers are in suffering. The answers are in difficult times. Hopefully, I've given you some ideas as to why. There's no value in easy things. There's no value. The only value could be to enjoy your life. And I'm a guy that, I want to enjoy my life. I want to enjoy myself. I want to enjoy my time here on this planet, of course. But you have to have a little bit of that. But doing the difficult things, or no, rather, have a little bit of that, but just know that it's not going to help you. It's not concretely going to give you any answers to life's burning questions. You will find those answers when you're in a moment of deep pain and you want to stop, but you don't stop and you keep going. So, let's wrap this up. Let's bring this episode home. Hopefully, I've done a good job in trying to explain this whole concept, this idea. But just know that in your life, every single day, you have the choice. You have the choice to do nothing, to only give half of your effort to tasks and certain jobs and school, or you have the choice to give 100% effort in all that you do. Sometimes it's not even because it benefits you, it is just to build yourself up and to prove that you're strong and you have a strong mind and that you can build consistency with yourself and in your life, and you can truly live a fulfilling life. And there is time. There is time in the day for some enjoyment, for a little bit of just cheap dopamine fun. It's absolutely there. But if you let it control you, you let it take over your hours and your days, you let it drain your sleep because you play video games till 3 a.m., for example, it will slowly eat away at your soul until you just become a shell. But difficult things, the thing that you don't want to do, it will make you feel weak in the moment. But as I read in the beginning of this episode, God's power. You will be weak in the moment, but at the end of it all, you will be so much stronger.